not a sailor. Here's a few ideas that I think might help you have more fun with your team, and you could still be focused on winning and also have a fun time. Just because the goal is to win doesn't mean that if you lose it'll be a wash. But I think if you extrapolate your team out another 10 years, they're going to be in college. And in the college game, you got to have fun, but the focus is on winning. It's like when two national teams play each other, it's not just to have fun, right? Winning is a huge part of it. So, but I think you got to win in style, right? You got to win with class. So here are some things that I think might help specifically. The first is I don't think it should be equal playing time, even though it's U10, right? Because there's a hierarchy of players on the team, which means some players are better than others. And assuming that you start the game with the best players on the field, those are the players that should play a majority of the time. Something that this former Gatorade Coach of the Year that I had, he would, halfway through the first half, for example, he'd take out the forwards and the wingers, so you call that 4 players. Then he'd leave those subs in for the start of the second half. At the halfway through the second half, he would replace the original starters who came off in the first half. Right, so what you're going to do is you're going to create a nice flow of energy from your team. The positions that do significantly, well, you could argue significantly more running, the forwards and the wingers, since they understand that pattern. What you're going to start to see is that I don't know if you've ever played soccer, but usually if you're a starter and you get taken out first, it does something to your psychology, especially if you don't know if you're going to go back in, right? It feels like punishment. But what starts to happen is when players understand that they're going to be coming in at the second half of the second half, not only are they psychologically, do they look forward to the start of the second half since they know they're going to play, but they give it more. They give more energy in the first half since they know they're going to have almost a whole half game to recover. Right? They're going to have the end of the end of the first half and the start of the second half to get their legs back underneath them. And I understand that this is U10, and some of these ideas might be pushing the bar, but you gotta think, if you love coaching, and it seems like you do, and especially since you're writing in this forum that talks about improving as a coach, this is very relevant because it's just an elegant way to make substitutions that a lot of coaches I think take for granted. If you think about it this way, subbing is like the one thing that you can do that can really change the game. So just this one little trick is something that no one's talking about. No one's talking about as coaches, and it's such a simple strategy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the forwards and the wingers, right? It could be just the forwards, or it could be the forwards and the whole midfield, right? So you could play around with the players that you take off for the second half of the first half. But the whole idea is that they come in, the players who are taken off the first half, they come back at the second half of the second half. And that's it. And then maybe you have a championship game. Or a game where there's stakes on the line, the tournament game. What you can do is you can leave the starters in for a little bit longer. So for example, with 15 minutes left, let's say you're doing 45-minute halves, and you're playing in a serious game where you kind of want to give your starters some more minutes. You want to give the strongest players more minutes. You replace your starters with 15 minutes to go. So basically at the end, so not halfway through the first half, but the end of the first half, and then you could put those starters back in whenever it's convenient in the second half, right? So it's kind of just being aware of the balance of the players, but just by keeping this pattern, it's really going to elevate your team's energy. That's what I've noticed from the coach who did this, and this is from Coach Doug Nevins. former Gatorade Coach of the Year, coming out of West Orange High School. I think he's still coaching there. Second thing you want to keep in mind is a lot of the development of your team can come off the field, or off the practice. So as in, there are some tools that if you send them to your players' families and they respond, and there's a few tools that come to mind that can really elevate your team. And then you could say there's the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle is like 80% of the goals will be scored by 20% of the player, or 80% of the work done in any organization is done by 20% of the people, right? That's how the rule usually flows. Sometimes it's even more intense. Sometimes it's 10% of an organization. 10% of the people in an organization will do 80% of the work. And the way that relates to soccer is that on your team, there's probably maybe out of 11-man starting roster or female roster, there's probably 3 or 4 players who touch the ball more than, who contribute more to your team, that they're getting more touches on the ball than the rest of them. So you want to pick those players in particular, or just send a team email and suggest these 3 tools. The tools are an RMT rope, an SKLZ solo kick trainer, and the third is a dribble up ball. Dribble up ball is a little bit expensive. It's got a monthly subscription. It's basically having a skills coach at your home, and that you could use. You could use a TV, or you could use a phone to teach players skills games. So I think why this is effective is because anytime you turn skills development into a game, it makes it fun, which means it creates a positive feedback loop. The more fun the game is, the better the player is going to get, which means they're going to have more fun in the game, which means they're going to have. It's going to encourage them to spend more time using the dribble up ball. The kick trainer is just a great ball for beginner players because since it's attached to a rope, players can cram thousands of touches in very tight time windows, and it's going to help with their first touch, timing, rhythm, coordination, a balance, it's a great tool because you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for a training partner. You don't have to go to a wall. You don't have to go to a wall where you can get touches in the house without worrying about breaking stuff. So that's why the SKLZ solo kick trainer is any player that's a beginner who isn't using a kick trainer is just missing out on rapid skills development and ball striking. Right? You could significantly improve. Even your daughter, I think you said she's a goalkeeper. She could significantly improve her striking technique and her ability to crush a goal kick and her touch on the ball. An RMT rope is kind of like a jump rope, but it's a little bit different. And what it does is, it was actually taken from Sugar Ray Leonard. So Sugar Ray Leonard, he wouldn't jump through jump ropes. He would actually swing them to the left and his right. And what this improved with him is his ability to rotate his core and spine, and how that translates to soccer is because as you learn different patterns and as you start to understand your body, how you swing the rope, it's basically like effortless strength through motion with a little piece of rope. And you think, a lot of these players, they're going to speed schools, they're doing extra training, they're doing weight training, like Parisi speed school, all this stuff. Yet for the cost of a piece of rope at your local hardware store, or maybe some rope you have lying at home, you could turn a piece of rope into a soccer gym that you can bring everywhere that you can bring everywhere in the world, that it's going to last you a lifetime, right? It's going to lifetime of strength and movement training that you could fit in your pocket. So for that reason, an RMP rope is something that I wish I started using 27 years ago since I started playing. And the last thing I'll follow up with is take this test. Take a deep breath. If you took that deep breath and your shoulders rose up into the air, then you might want to check out this video, right? If your deep breath looked like this, if that's how your deep breath looked, then you might want to search How to Breathe by Dr. Vranich, V-R-A-N-I-C-H. This completely changed my life because not only did it help effortlessly improve my stamina and endurance, but it helps you remain calm in high pressure situations on and off the field. So if you can learn this technique so that you can teach your players this technique, breathing and relaxation techniques are something that not a lot of coaches are talking about and not a lot of players know about. So this is something that you can start to teach your team how to breathe effectively. And you might say, oh, U10, maybe it's too early in their age development. There's countries all over the world that teach breathing and relaxation techniques to sports players as young as 5 and 6. So I don't think it's too young of an age, U10, to teach this. So hopefully some of these ideas help, and reach out with any questions. All right, thank you.